The major news story over the last couple of days has been the terrorist attack that was carried out in Moscow, which has now taken the lives of reportedly 133 people. The blast took place at a large concert venue near Moscow, where the Federal Security Bureau and many analysts have said was intended to cause as many fatalities as possible. So far, the Federal Security Bureau has 11 people, including four terrorists, who were directly involved in the shooting. They have detained and have begun interrogating. In fact, a video was leaked to the internet of Russian special forces, specifically interrogating one of the people that was apprehended. Now, following that, the Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed the nation following the terrorist attack in the Crocus City Hall. He expressed his condolences to the victims and families of the shooting and said that everyone held responsible for the tragedy will be punished. So far, according to intelligence sources and official statements by the Russian government, this group of people who attacked appear to be Ukrainian in origin. The confession given by the individual who was interrogated on camera says that he was paid, or they were paid $500,000 to carry out the attack, and were apprehended immediately, proceeding towards the Ukrainian border, where they supposedly had a plan to cross over, and that's where they were going to go. However, during the initial incident, the Western media, and particularly Western governments, automatically claimed that it was ISIS who had carried out the attack, and they allege that ISIS had taken credit for the attack. Now, me personally, I have a hard time believing that, because ISIS has not been relevant for years. Sure, they've still been a problem, but they've not been the massive problem that they originally were. So I find that very difficult to believe. And the fact that I can't find any actual statement by ISIS that says that they did it. And even if I did find a statement by them, I'd probably be arrested for just looking at it. Now, initially, I had believed, as someone I know who really understands these things, he suggested that it was actually a neo-Nazi attack initially. This was before any information had come out stating who had carried out the attack. He said that given the fact that a lot of neo-Nazi organizations have carried out like beatings and shootings and stuff like that lately, and the fact that state security have really come down on neo-Nazis lately and arrested many members, broken up, smaller thug-like organizations, that it could very well have been plotted by neo-Nazis as a measure of revenge against the government. But it appears that certainly wasn't the case. It is, of course, being blamed on the Ukrainian government. And as of this time, that seems to be the official information. That seems to be the only actual information that we have. And this is based on the confession of one of the terrorists themselves. Whereas this allegation that it was ISIS, which the mainstream media claimed it was far too quickly. The statements came out of the White House and other Western governments far too quickly, claiming that it was them. Even the Canadian government says they had intelligence that such an attack was going to be carried out on Moscow around that time, and to which Russia criticized why that information hadn't been shared with them. And if they have evidence of this being an ISIS plot, they would like to have it turned over to them, which is a reasonable request. So as it stands right now, based on the available evidence, this was or had something to do with the Ukrainian government, or maybe it was a Ukrainian organization that may or may not necessarily be affiliated with the government. But when looking at this, it doesn't really make much sense for the Ukrainian government to do this, because there's no real benefit. Like, they don't really get anything out of it. Like, this won't accomplish anything. I mean, if this was an attack by Ukraine, I mean, this won't strategically help them in any way. Russia will probably respond by shelling particular targets inside of Ukraine, which the person I know, which tends to know these things very well, says that it's probably very likely what's going to happen. But at the same time, it doesn't make any sense for Russia to lie about it either. Russia, like some have suggested, this is a false flag attack by the Russian government, because it's never a false flag attack when it happens to us, but it's always a false flag attack when it happens to them, because our government would never do that, but theirs is, because theirs are inherently evil, according to them. I also find that very hard to believe, because this attack wouldn't really accomplish anything on Russia's end either. Russia is already essentially winning the war. This wouldn't. The only possible thing I could think of would be for this to be if they could prove or show that this was done by the Ukrainian government, then they might be able to mobilize into full military mode rather than a limited engagement, which limits how much they can actually do and what the entire war has been up until now. But I don't see that as being necessary. Russia's already winning. So there wouldn't be a need to escalate to more troops to be in the actual war itself, or to justify a larger military force. It's just not necessary. It would be a waste of resources. So I find it hard to believe that the Ukrainian government would have done this, but I also even harder to believe that it would be a false flag from inside Russia itself. I would not be surprised if this was some intelligence agency other than Russia or Ukraine that did this, or maybe it genuinely really was a group of Ukrainians that got some kind of funding and decided to carry out this attack. Because as it stands right now, the two main explanations that it was the Ukrainian government, or that it was a false flag attack by Russia, neither one of those explanations is really satisfactory and don't really make much sense to me. But if both explanations don't make sense, I would think it's more likely that it was an attack by the Ukrainian government. Or if not, then some kind of third party that took it upon themselves to carry that out. But as it stands right now, all evidence does point to the Ukrainian government being responsible for this attack. And given how very, very strongly Putin said that they were going to punish those responsible, I would really prefer not to be any government official of Ukraine right now, especially Zelensky.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.